Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we're going to be having a little bit of a gander at Viridian Forest. We looked at Lavender Town just yesterday. Probably yesterday. It does depend on what order they get uploaded in, whether news comes out, etc. So being that Lavender Town has just been uploaded, it's probably time we had a little stroll through Viridian Forest. Now, Viridian Forest is kind of a very fun card, to be honest. It has been translated by the lovely David Hochmann over at limitlesstcg.com/translations. And it says that once during your turn, either player may discard a card from their hand and then search their deck for a basic energy and put it into their hand. And both of these things could potentially be good. I'm still not 100% sure why this is Viridian Forest. There's a part of me that's just a little bit like, does it fit thematically? I mean, Lavender Town letting you look at your opponent's hand, that's kind of tricksy, and Lavender Town is where the ghosts come from. That made sense to me. Viridian Forest, yeah, it's still a good little stadium. Now, searching for basic energy is good. And there's so many things you can do with this. Because one of the things I need to mention, and this is super, super important, we don't have Energy Search right now. Energy Search rotated out a little while ago, and we've not had it back since. And nobody really noticed that we didn't have Energy Search because we had Professor's Letter, which was double Energy Search. And if you really wanted, you could just play it like an Energy Search, but you could get two cards. Most of the time that was better. Now in Japan, they've had a lovely promo card called Energy Spinner. An Energy Spinner is basically Energy Search. It lets you search for a basic energy, but if you're going second and it's your first turn of the game, you can instead search for free basic energy. And that has seen play, partly because we literally don't have any other options, but also with Alolan Ninetales. And it's led to some cool little tricks. So you go behind on prizes, you evolve Alolan Ninetales, and then you get to search for any 2 item cards. You grab a Counter Gain and an Energy Spinner, search for a Fairy Energy, and then you've actually got the requisite energy to attack with Alolan Ninetales. And don't forget the GX attack there gets an instant one-hit KO on an Ultra Beast. It's a cool thing to do. In Japan, where they have this promo, we haven't got it. And the thing is that we generally get the Japanese promos, but sometimes we have to wait more than a little while in order to get them. And with no other way to search out basic energy, this becomes an incredibly useful card. Because sometimes it really is quite simple. You're playing a Granbull deck, you need to get the psychic energy, so you attack. So you use this to search. Or you're playing a Buzzwole, and you need to get that fighting energy so that you can attack. But it actually goes further than this. One card that I absolutely adore from Lost Thunder is the non-GX Nihilego. Now, the non-GX Nihilego, for just 1 psychic energy, allows you, if your opponent has exactly 2 prizes remaining, to copy any of your opponent's Pokemon's attacks. It is literally Zoroark's GX attack. The only difference is you got to have 2 prizes remaining. And it's on a non-GX, and it's for a single basic energy. It's pretty gosh darn good. The problem is it's for a psychic energy. Now, if you're playing a psychic deck, something like Garboda, for instance, yay! Otherwise, you generally end up playing stuff like Rainbow Energy, but the thing is that Rainbow Energy means that you've got to take a damage counter. And if you look at something like Nihilego, it doesn't really make a huge amount of difference. There aren't that many Pokemon around that hit for 100. But if you look at something like Buzzwole, that would bring Buzzwole down from 130 to 120. Remember that the senior world champion did play Rainbow Energy. He actually played 4 Rainbow Energy just for the 1 Buzzwole in his deck. And he won the world championship, so maybe that wasn't such a silly idea. But a single Rainbow Energy brings this down from 130 to 120. It means that an opposing Buzzwole or a Zoroark is then able to get a 1-hit KO. That 10 damage from Rainbow Energy makes a huge difference. Well, with Viridian City, what you can do here is play Nihilego and play 1 Psychic Energy. Okay, fine, it might be prized. 1 in 10 games it will. But if you're that worried, play 2 Psychic Energy. You can play Buzzwole with 1 Fighting Energy. And this is what's so good about it. Yes, on the one hand, it gives you that added consistency to get the energy on the turn you need it, and that can be really, really good. But it also means that your teching options are so much better. The reason why we never really played Energy Search very much is because, generally speaking, well, you play Energy Search, but if you're only playing 1 type of energy, why would you not just play another energy? Why would you play 6 energy in an Energy Search when you could just play 7 energy? It didn't make a huge amount of sense. But this is different. This is a stadium. So firstly, yes, it gets you your energy. Secondly, it allows you to play stuff like Nihilego. But thirdly, I probably need to remind you about the Prism Star stadiums at the moment. Thunder Mountain is a phenomenal stadium which reduces the cost of lightning Pokemon's attacks by 1 lightning energy. And okay, right now it might not be the most relevant card because lightning decks aren't the most relevant, but in Japan at the moment there are 2 decks vying for top spot. There are 2 decks that were the most represented decks in Top Cut at a 1,500 person tournament this weekend. And they were Zapdos with Jirachi and Zapdos with Jirachi and Jolteon. So lightning decks are actually the best in Japan right now. Remember, Japan is playing Sun and Moon on just like we are. Japan's format is ours, but in like a month's time. So actually, this is extremely relevant, ladies and gentlemen. And that can't be field blown away. Which means if you're not playing any counter stadiums, you're giving your opponent a huge advantage. If you're playing a grass deck, you want Life Forest Prism Star. And if you are not playing any stadiums, you basically say to your opponent, look, as soon as you've searched out that stadium, you're good for the game, you enjoy yourself, it's out there. So counter stadiums are more important than they've ever been. So yes, this lets you search out your energy. Yes, this opens up your teching options, but it's also a really good counter for any of these stadiums. Now, the other thing I need to mention here is that it's not just search for a basic energy, it is discard a card from your hand and do so. Now, don't get me wrong, there are going to be certain times you don't want to discard a card from your hand, and it's going to be annoying. But there are so many decks where you want to. And I mentioned Granbull earlier, and I adore this in Granbull. Because in Granbull, you hit for 160 damage for a single basic energy, just so long as you've got 0 cards in hand. And you often end up with a supporter card that you can't play, or 2 energy. This allows you to discard a card. And look, if you end up with 2 energy in hand, you could literally use this to just discard a card from your hand. It's not the best use for it ever, but it would work. And it could be the difference between attacking and not attacking. Bearing in mind, Granbull decks lately have literally been playing Mysterious Treasure, despite the fact they're playing 0 Psychic Pokemon and 0 Dragon Pokemon. Purely so that they've got a card they can search out with Makago and Oranguru to discard a card from their hand. Well, now you don't need to because of this, and it gets you your energy if you want to as well. How about Malamar decks, which want to get energy in the discard, or Naganadel decks that want to get energy in the discard? They've been playing Sightseer, and Sightseer's a good card. But what's really awesome about this is not only does it let you discard a card from your hand, but it lets you search a basic energy. So maybe you're actually going to be using Sightseer anyway, but you just use Viridian Forest to discard an energy, search out another energy, then discard that with Sightseer, and then you've got 2 energy in the discard, which is what you're actually looking for. The biggest problem with Viridian Forest is the biggest problem with almost any stadium nowadays. It's not Shrine of Punishment. And if you're playing a non-GX deck, Shrine of Punishment is over the top good, because it just puts 1 damage counter on EXs and GXs between turns. It is a phenomenal card in non-EX, non-GX decks. So if you want to play Viridian Forest in something like Granbull, well, you've got to actually give away Shrine of Punishment, or at least play fewer of them, or at the very least, you can't have both of them down at the same time. And that's a little bit of an issue here. That's the biggest issue with this card. I mean, some decks that are playing water or fighting Pokemon really want to play Brooklet Hill to give themselves that added consistency. This is a great stadium, and it's one we need. We don't have a good way to search out basic energy. This instantly becomes the best thing we've got. Plus, there are plenty of cards that like discarding energy. If we weren't in a format where we had great stadiums like Shrine of Punishment, this would probably become a staple in an awful lot of decks. As it is, it's still a great card, and I still expect it to see quite a lot of play, but I think it's probably appropriate to give it 4 Wossies. I think a lot of decks are going to play this. I think this is a really good card, but I also think there are going to be plenty of decks that would play this if they weren't playing Shrine of Punishment, or would play it if they weren't playing Brooklet Hill. So there we go. But maybe you disagree with me, ladies and gentlemen, in which case, great news. There is a comment section. Go nuts, but please do remember the rule. Be nice, would ya? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at The Wassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all of that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays for some more Wassy action. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.